the home of the do-it-yourself trucker. When everything goes wrong, you got a Redneckanize. All right, good deal. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Hey, this is Ed with Redneckanize coming at you. We're live here every Sunday evening at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Call it at 516-387-1733. We appreciate everybody joining us and listening along. And we're just talking about things going on in the trucking industry. One of the cool things I saw, of course, you know, when things make, I say this every time, that when the trucking industry makes like regular news, like regular popular news websites or whatever, I think it's a big deal because, you know, we see it in the daily stuff. There's nobody's ever talking about our industry. And when they talk about I think it's pretty cool. This one here was on CNBC, and I thought it was interesting because they were talking about how lawsuits have gotten bigger and bigger in the trucking industry. So it says rise in nuclear verdicts in lawsuits threatens trucking industry. And of course, that's big, scary, right? Of course, we saw this coming. We all knew it as truck drivers. But the key points is that the average verdict size for a lawsuit above $1 million involving a truck crash has increased nearly 1,000% from 2010 to 2018, rising from 2.3 million to 22.3 million. Nuclear verdicts, jury awards that surpass 10 million, are driving up insurance rates for trucking companies as costs to insure them rise and carriers leave the market. Another key point is to cut costs. Large operators are scaling back on excess insurance, putting them at greater risk should they be involved in an accident. Now, I don't know about the other insurance stuff. I mean, you know, a lot of times insurance, they might be talking to like an insurance company saying, well, they don't buy all that extra insurance that they used to buy because they probably figured out that it was a scam in the first place. Or, you know, the insurance company is telling them that they used to buy this stuff, but they're not anymore because, of course, everything is high, so they can't afford the all the extra stuff, which is understandable. You know, when the minimum, you know, when you have to have a certain amount of insurance that's required by law, is so expensive, then you can't afford to have extra insurance that you might think is pretty nice or lower deductible or whatever, especially as a smaller carrier. And of course, this dives into what we talk about as the definition of self-insured. Now, the article goes on. It says, this year should be a smooth sailing for Mike Card, president of Combined Transport. The trucking company his dad started in 1980 is busier than ever, trying to meet the nation's ravenous demand of delivered goods amid a pandemic. It says, but with some 500 trucks on the road across the nation, Card is constantly thinking about highway safety because just one bad crash could put his company on the brink of bankruptcy. And that's true. I mean, just with so you got a CEO of a company with 500 trucks saying this, that one bad crash could bankrupt his company. Think about those guys that just have 10 trucks or 20 trucks or 100 trucks. He says here, if somebody wins $20 million from the jury, my insurance company only pays the first $5 million. I would have to pay the next 15. We couldn't afford that. We'd have to shut our doors, Card said. So that's, you know, there we go. See, we don't know a lot of this stuff because we think that insurance, they go after the insurance company. Of course, that's what lawyers say. They go after the insurance company. But insurance company, like he pays an insurance for these lawsuits, and they say that's what they'll pay. So you know that when it came down to a lawsuit, the insurance company would settle for 3, 4, 5 million to pay that 5 million. So he don't have to pay. So he would be willing to settle for 5 million because his insurance company would pay that 5 million. So that's when these companies or these lawyers, they know that they go after the minimum. That's why there was a push to get the minimum raised, the minimum requirement for each truck. It's right now at $750,000. They tried to get it raised to 4 million because they want the minimum. They want you to settle higher. And that's what they want. So anyway, it goes on. It says, according to data analyzed by the National Safety Council, just over 5,000 large trucks were involved in fatal crashes in 2019, a 43% increase from 2010. The number of injuries associated with truck crashes rose 7% that year to 160,000, with the majority being occupants of other vehicles. And I could chalk that up the increase being that much, it could be just, I mean, that much. I'm not going to say it's all because of more trucks on the highway, but it's a small amount, at least a good 10 or 12%. So jury awards for crashes are also skyrocketing. When considering verdicts of more than $1 million, the average size increased nearly 1,000% from 2010 to 2018, rising from 2.3 million to 22.3 million, according to a study last summer by the American Transportation Research Institute. U.S. Express has about 7,000 trucks. CEO Eric Fuller told CNBC that for comparable accidents, verdict sizes have increased as much as 10 times over the last 3 to 4 years. It says when you get into jury trials, there's very much a feeling of somebody has to pay for this, and it's often the big pockets, Fuller said. The insurance industry calls them nuclear verdicts, jury awards that surpass $10 million. Liberty Mutual Insurance blames corporate mistrust, litigation finances, and social pessimism. A sense that the system is broken for excessive jury awards. In lawsuits that went in favor to the plaintiffs, hours of service violations, lack of clean driving history, and fatigue were commonly cited factors. Says the trucking industry sees them as unfairly punitive, biased against transportation companies, and brought about by aggressive attorneys. It points to high-profile accidents that have resulted in massive verdicts against trucking companies, even when passenger cars are clearly at fault for the accident. And see, that's the stuff we got to look at. It says one of the largest stemmed from the 2014 crash in Odessa, Texas, involving Werner Enterprises during a winter storm. The driver of a pickup truck lost control and crossed the median, striking the tractor trailer head on. The accident killed a 7-year-old passenger and seriously injured 3 others. The family successfully sued and was awarded $90 million. The case is currently under appeal. If an accident like this is the fault of the driver who hit it is out. If an accident like this is the fault of the driver who was hit by an out-of-control vehicle, think about what that means by every motorist on the road, Werner Enterprises said in a statement. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. I tell you what, I couldn't imagine as a truck driver, what do you do? You don't know. There's nothing you can do. Something coming at you from the other way, no, I don't know, It says, in most states, there's a disconnect between your level of negligence and your level of liability, said Dan Murray, Senior Vice President of the American Transportation Research Institute. There are states where you can be identified as 10% or 15% negligent or still be vulnerable for 100% of the financial liabilities. I'd like to see the details of that case in Odessa in 2014. The driver must have had something wrong. The driver must have been in violation. There must have been a rule that he was breaking, like they were out of hours or driving. I don't know. It just seems to me that there had to be some kind of circumstance for a jury to say, oh yeah, that company's at fault. Blame them. I don't understand. It says here. Let's see. The insurance and trucking industries are lobbying federal and state lawmakers for lower caps on settlements and more restrictions on where and when and how often plaintiffs' attorneys are permitted to file lawsuits. It says they appear to be gaining headway in several states, including Texas and Iowa, where bills aimed at limiting a company's liability and verdict sizes are working their way through the state legislatures. And while expensive litigation, jaw-dropping verdicts, and settlements are driving up the price of all kinds of insurance for small and medium-sized trucking companies, the price hikes on liability insurance are becoming unaffordable. And this is the deal. I remember having a conversation with some people in these bigger companies in the offices, and talking about how driver pay or especially driver pay, but fuel prices, insurance costs, all that stuff. The price to price what it should cost, okay, for what we should be paying drivers and what we should be paying for insurance to protect everybody, because people should be, you should be awarded some kind of settlement if a truck driver is doing stupid stuff and something bad happens. Okay, that should happen. So we want to have good insurance. We want to have good driver pay. We want to have good trucks. We want to have good fuel, all that stuff. But that would make that the price of a gallon of milk would go from $5 to $15. Nobody's going to pay that. So you can't have that. It's not going to happen. People are unwilling to pay more for their groceries so that insurance rates and pay could be better. People are not going to do that. Just like the minimum wage thing. You know, if you're going to pay people $15 an hour to work at McDonald's, you're going to be paying $20 for a value meal, and people are not going to do that. So, you know, that kind of thing isn't going to happen. But all that is what it boils down to. It says, is that what? Yeah, okay, here it goes. It keeps on going. It says the commercial trucking market has experienced unprecedented increases in commercial insurance rates over the past 2 years, averaging 20 to 25% annually, according to the Craig Dancer, U.S. Transportation Industry Practice leader for Marsh and McClellan, the world's largest insurance broker. He said the price hikes also usually come with an increase in the deductible trucking companies have to pay. Umbrella to excessive liability markets passed on even larger increases over 75%, causing most trucking companies to purchase less insurance, Dancer says. According to Murray, the smaller operators think if the deductibles are too high or the insurance premium gets too high, I will scale back the amount of coverage I have. Federal law requires trucks to carry $750,000 liability coverage. Because that's not even close to covering most of a lot of these accidents, Fuller said. So we'd really like to see the insurance minimums go up. Who said that? Fuller? Who's that? I got to go back here and double check because it says Fuller. Fuller. Who's Fuller? Oh, that's the CEO of U.S. Express. Now, see, here we go. Let's get into this. Fuller. So Fuller is the CEO of U.S. Express, and he says that, of course, $750,000 doesn't. The minimum coverage doesn't even cover the required. What do all these accidents have to cover? Now, I would disagree that that's not even close. I mean, if you had a bad accident, yes, $750 is not going to cover it, but that's $750 for anything. That's for a fender bender. So, but he says we'd like to see the insurance minimums go up. And I would argue that these big company CEOs would like to see those minimums go up because that would create a better opportunity for them. Because if the minimums go up, that means that the premiums go up for all the independents, and that pushes them right out of the market. So yeah, whenever you're talking about like minimum coverage and premiums and deductibles, don't even talk to a big company CEO because they don't have that problem. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't cost them money. It costs them money, but they don't have the problem with trying to figure out what's more important, a premium or a deductible, because they don't have either. Okay, well they have a deductible. I'll tell you that. And what it is they have to have cash on hand. That's in order to get self-insured status. They have to have cash in the bank. And every time that an accident happens, they have to take the cash out of their operating expenses and put it into an escrow account, and it has to be held there until the accident gets cleared. That's why they have adjusters that work for them, because they're working really hard to make sure that accident gets cleared. And this is according to the state. Now these are state laws that they have to abide by, and it's hard. It's not easy. It's a big expense, but it's totally different than what a independent driver has to go through. You pay a premium, and then depending on how high your premium is, and that kind of depends on how low your deductible is going to be, whether it could be $500 or $2,000, whatever. And so that's the debate you have to have with yourself is, are you going to pay more monthly so that you can pay less if you have an accident? A lot of people, they pay less monthly and have a high deductible because they figure if there's anything more than that, it's going to be damage to the truck. I mean, you could do $1,500 worth of damage to the truck and the truck not be out of service. So, it's all kind of stuff like that. He says, but the cost of insurance is already a top concern for smaller companies. According to Todd Spencer, president of the Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association, he says the push for higher minimum coverage could drive smaller operators out of business. Boom. There you said it. There are proposals on the table that would pretty much increase the minimum required right now by a factor of 5. And that would be the death nail for many, many small business truckers, he said. Well, yeah. Card says trucking companies try to pass on costs to their customers in the form of higher shipping rates, but they're also struggling. They've got their costs going up, and they're pushing back on us to not raise rates. He says the companies largely end up eating the cost. Well, I'll tell you what, this is because I wouldn't really say that it's a give and take, but I'll tell you what, the shippers, the people that are trying to find the truck drivers, they're doing a better job than the truckers. They're doing a much better job than the truckers at knowing their rates and counting the costs and negotiating. They're doing a much better job. You know, when there's a lot of truckers out there complaining that the rates are low because the truck drivers let the rates go low. We have too many truck drivers in this industry that just take whatever they can get, and it's horrible. That's the truth. That's the God honest truth right there. If you had more drivers out there, and I wouldn't say you had to be all, I mean, it's good that you can be in a business where you're allowed to negotiate, but the worst part is that you're in a business where you're allowed to negotiate. So it's one of those things where, hey, I'm an independent operator. I could charge whatever I want. Oh, crap. I'm an independent owner operator. I can charge whatever I want, which means that somebody can undercut you. So, but it says a decision to forego coverage is also a gamble, putting companies' survival on the line. And independent truck drivers do that every day. They're always on the brink because of these decisions they have to make about insurance. It says the insurance companies that could protect Car's company in the event of severe accident with or without, it would be catastrophic for our company. We'd lose. All of our employees would lose their jobs, he said. And that was a pretty good article. And it talks about like the number of cases of verdicts over 1 million. I mean, it was like between 2005 and 2011, it was right around 80 cases. In 2012, 2019, it's like 265 cases. That's crazy. But that's kind of stuff we talk about on here, and it's pretty interesting. So check us out at redneckanize.com and give us a holler at 516-387-1733 every Sunday evening, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. And we appreciate everybody hanging out with us.